I know I can't live my life without God. I can live my life without anything else in this world, but living without God is not even something I'm willing to even think about, because I know I need God to get through this life. Hi, my name is Charisma Williams. I'm from Montgomery County, Maryland. I'm 29 years old. I'm also a registered nurse. I grew up in a two-parent household. My dad is a Navy veteran, so I've moved around all of my life. I was born in San Diego, California. I moved from San Diego, California to Cleveland, Ohio. Then after that, I moved to Prince George's County, Maryland. Then after that, I moved to Georgia. And then after that, I came to Montgomery County, Maryland. So I've been in Montgomery County for about almost 20 years now, since I was 10 years old, and I'll be 30 in May. Growing up, what I'll say is that my parents, they loved me. They showed their love through material things, but they were also my first bullies. I grew up as a plus size girl. I've always had a little bit more weight on me, so my parents weren't shy about letting me know that. And so on one end, it was like they were there for me with material things, but with my emotional needs and, my mental health needs, they weren't really there for me in that aspect. They've been married for 39 years. I have an older brother and an older sister. I'm the youngest. As far as my parents treating us all the same, I would say no. I would say that my brother was looked at as like what people may say as the golden child. Him and my mother have like a very close relationship. At one point, I would refer to him as my mother's son husband, because of the way she just would treat him, as far as telling him things that my sister and I were doing, or telling our personal business to him. He was allowed to insert himself in the parenting, as far as, advice, as far as how we should be disciplined and things of that nature. And it was looked at like he could never do no wrong. And for my sister and I to be my mom's daughters, we were treated with way harsher discipline. So it was rough growing up in my household. It was like I had to develop a tough skin at a very young age. So I had a false belief of who Jesus was. I didn't get baptized until I was 16 years old, and I'm pretty sure a lot of Black families will be able to relate to this. You grow up hearing the honor thy mother and father. And in my household, I feel like that was used as a religious weapon, because my parents would often take disrespect and say, well, honor thy mother and father. But there's a verse right after that says, and don't provoke your children to anger. But that's never talked about in Black households, I feel like. So I grew up hearing honor thy mother and father, but my feelings were never taken into consideration. And I really didn't get to know Jesus for myself until I got baptized at 16. And even now, I'm still learning about Jesus. I'm still learning about false prophets and, biblical doctrine and things of that nature. So my parents taught me about God, but I feel like they taught me about the fear of God instead of developing a relationship with God, if that makes sense. So because of the emotional abuse from my parents, I was looking for love in all the wrong places, especially since I didn't have a relationship with my father. Like I said, my father was present, but he wasn't emotionally available. So a lot of the things that I should have been taught about men, as far as what men to stay away from, and, my dad taking me on daddy-daughter dates and things like that, I didn't experience that. So I was looking for love in all the wrong places. So I started being sexually active at a very early age, at 15 years old. And from there, I just went on a downward spiral. At 15 years old, I had dealt with a 19-year-old. And then after that, I just was just looking for that love that I guess I only could find in God, because I couldn't get it from my father. And then I was looking for it in men, and I was getting disappointed. And also the fact that my parents were high school sweethearts as a teenager, it's like I always dreamed of having that. So I would search for that and cling to it if there was even an ounce of a possibility that I could have it, even if the guy disrespected me, even if he didn't treat me the way I was supposed to be treated. If it looked like I could have a high school sweetheart, then that's what I was clinging to at that time. So what led into the relationship that I was in, I actually dated someone that I knew since high school. So the guy that I dated, he had a crush on me in high school, but I didn't give him the time of day because in high school, he was like the nerdy type. And back then I was a rebel and I was attracted to like what they call bad boys. So in high school, I got into like a lot of trouble. I was on juvenile probation. I went to an alternative school at one point. I was recommended for expulsion twice. And during that time, any guy who would give me an ounce of attention, that's who I would, give attention to. So that got me in a lot of trouble. I ended up getting baptized at 16 and I stopped getting in trouble because I just was tired of my life going down that path. So then after that, I went to another high school my senior year. I finished out at a regular public school and then I graduated from high school in 2012 and went to Delaware State University in 2013 and I graduated from Delaware State in 2016. And then even in college, I was so wrapped up in the idea of finding love that I wasn't focused on my studies. So I actually changed my major in college from nursing to public health. I graduated from Delaware State. And then from 2016 to 2017, I had decided to give nursing school another try. So I finished up my prerequisites for nursing school and then went to nursing school from 2017 to 2019. And all while doing this, I always was looking for love in the wrong places. So I had given one of my exes another chance during nursing school, and that just didn't turn out right. So then after that, I had stayed single from 2019 to 2020, and that's where I met the ex that I'm talking about. So someone that I knew in high school, he had a crush on me. He had wrote me on Facebook in 2020. He had just gotten out of prison. He did 3 years in prison for shooting someone. So he had just got out of prison and he had wrote me on Facebook. We started to have a conversation and I was at a vulnerable point. I just felt like, I'm a nurse. I want to find love. Maybe this is a good guy because he liked me before in high school and I didn't give him a chance. And so him and I started, communicating. We exchanged numbers and then we ended up meeting up. I went to his house because I had knew him from high school. So it wasn't like he was a stranger. So I went to his house and then after that, we had just started dating. So when I first started dating him, he has a way with words. He has what I like to call the gift of the gab. So he knew exactly what to say in order to get me to fall for him. And he loved bombed me a lot. Like during one of our first interactions, he had like showered me with gifts and he was always texting me like, you're beautiful, you're smart, like feeding my self-esteem. But I truly believe he was doing that because I had expressed to him the lack of that emotional support that I had from my parents. So he fed off of that in order to get me deeper in a relationship with him. And probably about a month and a half in our relationship, he started to cheat on me. I found that out because one night he was at my apartment and his phone just kept going off, going off, going off. And I checked it because I had his password and he was actually having a sexually explicit conversation with another young lady. And so when I saw that, I woke him up out of his sleep and I started cursing him out and I told him, get out, like you have to leave now. Him and I started arguing and I actually busted his lip. I punched him in his face and he left my apartment. So after that, it was almost like I knew it was time to let him go, but what I say about the situation between him and I is I didn't let him go, so God forced me to let him go because he ended up breaking up with me. And during the time of us dating, it was just constant drama because he is a convicted felon. So it was just hard for him to get a job. It was hard for us to go out and like have dates and stuff because he always thought he would run into people that he had beef with from prison. It was just always some type of drama. He would often try to put me down and say that I thought I was better than people because I was a nurse. So I feel like he was intimidated by the type of woman that I am in my education, and it just really affected our relationship. So the way he fed my self-esteem at the beginning of our relationship, he tore down my self-esteem double during the relationship. I kicked him out, and he had called me that evening, and I answered the phone and I was like, "What do you want?" And he was like, "What do you mean what I want? We haven't even been in a relationship for 6 months yet. So I'm thinking that we can get comfortable in our relationship before I cut other women off." And honestly, I had blamed myself for that, but my self-esteem wasn't at the level that it was at now. So I was able to be manipulated by him easily. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I never did set that boundary with him. I never did say what I would and wouldn't accept in this relationship. So maybe he is right. So I ended up giving him another chance, and we didn't break up. We just took, like, I think a day apart, if that. And then we continued our relationship. So the relationship just continued to get bad. Women were coming out of left field. I had women contact me on Facebook in regard to him. He also has two daughters. I don't have any children. He does. And so he wasn't even taking care of his kids at the time. It was just like a lot of drama. I would see a lot more text messages, even explicit pictures. I even found out that he was on a dating app during the time we were dating. He was on the dating app called Hinge, and I found that out. So it was just like a lot of drama, and the relationship really got bad once he wanted to get his license during COVID. So during COVID, you really didn't have to do much to get your license. All you had to do was just sit in the car by yourself, and the proctor of the exam watched you from a distance. They weren't even in the car with you. So he used my car to take his driver's license exam. He passed, and after he passed, he went and bought a car. And once he bought a car, he was like, "Well, I don't have insurance. I don't know how to get insurance." And at the time, because my dad is a Navy veteran, I had USAA. And so I put him on my insurance. And the deal between us was that he would cash at me the money every month for the insurance. The insurance was $240. So the agreement was he would cash at me $120, because prior to him getting on my insurance was $120. So once he started cheating and everything, we just became distant. And I noticed that the cash apps just were slowing down. And at the time, yes, I was a nurse, but I wasn't making nearly as much as I make now. So I was barely able to cover my own bills, let alone his. And so, he just stopped cash apping me. I would remind him, and then he would send the cash apps. And then I got COVID. So once I got COVID, I was out of work for 3 weeks. I was very sick. And over this time, he barely checked on me. I remember one time I called his phone, and I was on speakerphone, and I was like, I said something to the effect of, "I'm so mad I have COVID," or something like that I said. And he literally cussed me out. He was like, "Can you stop? Because I don't want my manager to find out. And then they're going to send me home and I'm not going to get paid." So he just was really like mean and evil during that time. So when he broke up with me, he came to my house one day, and, this is embarrassing, but we were sexually active that day, and we went to Walmart. I'll never forget this. We went to Walmart, and he was looking at a woman in Walmart. He was looking at her like behind. And I told him, I said, "You're being disrespectful. Like, why do you feel like it's okay to look at another woman while I'm with you? Or just in general, if you're in a relationship?" And he basically was like, "Well, those are the things that I'm going to do, and I don't see the problem with it." He broke up with me that night after sleeping with me while I had COVID. So after we broke up, I let the relationship go, because at that point, like I said, I wasn't strong enough to let the relationship go. So I truly believe in my heart that God did it for me. So after that, I told him, I said, "Even though we're broken up, I still need you to continue to pay the insurance, because I cannot afford I can't afford 240 at this point. So I still need you to cash at me." He ended up blocking me. So the insurance was just piling up to the point where it got overdue by $1,800, and I had to go 2 years without insurance following that. I couldn't get in contact with him. He blocked my phone number. Every time I would call him, he would hang up the phone. He was just low down, like to the point where I went without insurance. I got in touch with him on Facebook, and he was like, "I'm not paying that, because you shouldn't have never broke up. You shouldn't have never let me break up with you." He expected me to fight for the relationship. And since I didn't do that, he he didn't want to continue to pay the insurance. And then also I tried to take him off my insurance to see if the bill would go down. But since he had already left the $1,800 in my name, I had to pay that in order to even keep USAA. So he was without insurance. And due to his record of being not only a convicted felon and a new driver, his insurance would have been way more than 120. So he was just like, you never should have took me off. So still to this day, I'm still paying on that $1,800. So, how I got closer to God after that relationship was the fact that I had to realize that God was never in the relationship to begin with. And any relationship that's not built on God is built on the devil, and it won't last anyways. So, after he broke up with me, I took about 6 to 8 months to just be by myself. I started watching sermons. I started reading my Bible because he didn't believe in God. He had the philosophy that all the people that he saw in church did, evil things or were molested and things of that sort. So he didn't really believe in church. He would say stuff like, I don't believe in that Bible, SHIT, using profanity and stuff when referring to God. So I just got closer to God on my own. I started watching sermons. I started reading my Bible, getting into my word. And then in December of 2020, I had actually got on the phone with one of my friends on New Year's Eve. And I told her, I said, let's just write down our prayers for the new year. And then also, do you want to write down what we look for in a future husband? Because we were both talking about how we were ready to settle down and get married. So I wrote down my prayers and she wrote down hers. And then I went to sleep on New Year's Eve and I woke up on January 1st, 2021. And I was like, this is the year of the husband, God. I'm not going to accept anything less than what I deserve. This is the year of the husband. I'm ready for what you have for me. And once I said that, I met my fiance on January 26, 2021. I just wasn't willing to do anything else in my life without God in it. Not just a relationship, but friendships or, jobs, anything. If God wasn't in it, I wasn't either. So that's the philosophy I carried. I felt like my life without God was a depiction of what hell is like. And if that's what hell is like, I didn't want any parts of it. Because after my ex broke up with me, I was having night terrors. I couldn't sleep. He had my address and he would threaten to come to my apartment and have people run up in my apartment. So I just was real anxious. I had to have someone on FaceTime with me to go to sleep. I was having problems at work. It was just nothing in my life was going right. And I knew that without God in my life, it was only going to get worse. And I wasn't willing to see what that was like because it was already rough enough as it is. So today I say that Jesus saved my life. I wouldn't be where I am without God because the way that I think of it is, yes, I had a bad relationship, but God pulled me out of it and I didn't have a child by this man. So I'm not connected to this man for the rest of my life. Yes, $1,800 is left in my name, but it could have been $18,000. I came out unharmed. I came out without any type of attachment to this man. And I feel like that was God stopping it before it got too far. And also, I know I can't live my life without God. I can live my life without anything else in this world, but living without God is not even something I'm willing to even think about because I know I need God to get through this life. My favorite Bible verse is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, and it's plans to not harm you, it's plans to give you hope and a good future, because I had to hold on to that. It was times during that period where I thought I didn't want to be on this earth anymore. And I know that God held me in the palm of his hand. I know that God made a way out of no way. So there's nothing or no one in this world that can convince me that God is not real. And I feel like during that time, I would question where is God? Why isn't he hearing my prayers? But I seen this quote on Facebook one time and it said, never question where God is because the teacher is always quiet during a test. And I feel like God was quiet because he wanted to see how I was going to react. It's almost like the story of Job. God brought all of that, stuff on Job, or the devil brought all of that stuff on Job to happen to him to see if he would turn his back against God. And God told the devil, Job is not going to turn against me. You can do anything to him, just don't harm him physically. And that's exactly what Satan did. And the minute that Job kept praising God and kept seeking God's face, God gave Job double for his trouble. And that's what I feel like God has given to me now, double for my trouble, because the way God has turned my life around since then, I can't do anything but just thank him every day. Something I would say to someone who struggled with something like I did, or women who are looking for love and things of that nature, is just seek comfort in God and know that when God blocks it, leave it alone. So when a man comes back from your past, that's not always a good thing. Everything is not God sent. Some things are devil sent as well. So that's why you have to pray and ask God for a high sense of discernment. And whenever God puts a feeling on your spirit, don't just, shrug it off as anxiety or shrug it off as you being paranoid. That's God speaking to your spirit. So if you start dating and you feel something in your spirit that something is not right, go to God and ask God, God, I'm feeling this way about this person. What am I feeling? Ask God if that man is not for you to remove him from your life, because that's one of the prayers that God will answer the fastest. And, know the red flags. When someone shows you who they are, believe it the first time, and believe it and leave, because if you don't, you can end up in a situation like me or worse. Letting God write my love story has been one of the biggest blessings in my life. I am now engaged. I've been engaged since January 26, 2024 of this year. And I'm getting married in July of 2024. And my fiance is the complete opposite of my ex. My fiance has brought me closer to God. He's taught me biblical doctrine. He knows the Bible like the back of his hand. And I feel like that's what you should look for in a man. A man of God and a man who goes to church are two different things, because a man who goes to church, they can be in church with you on a Sunday and then have another woman in their bed on Sunday night. But a man that knows God and fears the Lord is a man that will love you like Christ loves the church. Choosing a man of God hasn't steered me wrong.